Before we continue with our exercises, I just want to remind you that if you don't have a workbook or an electronic version, an ebook, you are welcome to download the link to this exercise in the description bar below. Exercise 21, page 66 in your Counting Grade 8 workbook. Let's read together. C. Cindy, the owner of Candy Love, made the following payments by check in March 2020. Record the transactions into the cash payments journal. If you have your ebook, you can type the answers in. If you have your workbook, you can just write them in. Right, on the first, issued a check number 421 to Cadbury's for chocolate, 700 Rand, and that's allocated to material costs. So she's bought the raw chocolate and then she's going to manufacture these beautiful chocolates. All right, so she owns a manufacturing company. So let's post that to our cash payments journal. The document number is 421. The date is the 1st. The details of the payee, whose name is on the check, is paid out to Cadbury's for 700 Rand. It says material costs. Do we have a material costs account up here? No, we don't. So we put that under sundry accounts and we type in or write in material costs, 700 Rand. Right. On the second, issued a check to A Arts for ribbon and packets. And we allocate that to packaging material, 370 Rand. Right, so you know that the first check was 421. Checks are chronologically ordered, so numbered. So if it's 421, the next one would be 422. This was on the second. The payee was A Arts, that's who the check was made out to, for the sum of 370 Rand. And we've allocated that to packaging material. We have that account at the top here, so we're going to post 370 Rand. The next transaction is also on the second. Issued a check to Game for new pots to melt the chocolate, 2,500 Rand, and that's allocated to equipment. Right, so it's also on the second. We don't have to write it again. However, the next check number would be 423. And the payee is Game for the amount of 2,500 Rand for equipment. Do we have equipment account at the top here? Yes, we do. There it is. And we put in 2,500 Rand. The next transaction. Issued on the 4th. Issued a check to M Molds for chocolate molds, 300 Rand, and that's allocated to equipment. Right, so the date is the 4th. Check number 424 to M Molds for the amount of 300 Rand, and it says equipment. Do we have equipment? Yes, we do, so we allocate it to equipment, 300 Rand. Next transaction on the 7th, issued a check to Game for traveling cases for an overseas trip. Now obviously the owner is going to go on an overseas trip and has bought herself some suitcases. So whenever owner uses money out of the business for personal use, it is allocated to drawings to the value of 700 Rand. Right, so the next check number would be 425. The date is the 7th. The check is written out to Game. That's who the check, the name on the check, the payee says Game, all right? Not to the owner, to Game, all right, for the amount of 700 Rand. Is there drawings? Yes, at the account at the top, yes there is, and we can fill in 700 Rand over there. The next transaction is on the 8th, and what do we read? Sorry, 700 on the 8th. All right, let's read together. Cashed a check to pay wages, 900 Rand. The key word here is cashed. Cashed. And you'll see on the 9th as well, it says cashed a check. Now the way to get cash out of the bank account by using a check is as follows. Let's go have a look at our check again. Over here, where the payee is, instead of writing game or Cadbury's, whatever, you would write cash. Cash over here. All right. You then can take this check to the bank, and whatever value is written in over here, they will give you that amount, cash. All right. So the owner writes out a check, a cash check, gives it to someone in the office. They go to the bank and they exchange the check for cash, bring the cash back to the office, and in this case the owner uses it to pay wages. All right, so the details over here when a check is cashed will say cash. All right, so cashed a check to pay wages, 900 Rand. The check number would be 426. The payee will be cash. That is what's written on the check, cash, for 900 Rand to pay wages. Do we have a wages account there? No, we don't. So what we do, we go under sundry, we allocate it to the wages account for how much? 900 Rand. Right, on the 9th, cashed a check to make a donation of 500 Rand. So the 9th, the following check number would be 427. Once again, we had to write what was written on the check, cash. So that goes under the details. For how much? 500 Rand, to the value of 500 Rand. Do we have donation account up here? No, we don't. So under sundry, we fill in donation for the amount of 500 Rand. Okay, now that you've got your now don't forget to write who the cash payment journal is. So it's C Cindy, sorry, caps lock, C Cindy, my apologies, Cindy, for, what month is it? March 2020. That should be done first. It's the third month, so it's January, February, March, so it's the third month, so it's 03. All right, that should be done at the beginning. I'm very sorry, that won't happen again. All right, now what we have to do, we have to add these columns up. So we're going to add the bank column up to see how much was paid out by a check, and the amount is the total amount that's paid out, 5970 for the month. Then we add up all these columns over here for the different accounts. This is 2,800 Rand. Packaging material total 370. Drawings total 700. And our sundry accounts 2,100 Rand. Now, in order to check that you haven't made a mistake, the way you can check yourself is to take this total, the bank total, and it must be equal to these totals here when they are added up. That's the sum. All right, the sum of these totals should be equal to the amount that was paid out of the bank. Then you know that you've done it correctly. If it's not the same, then you can actually go and look and see where you've made the mistake. Now let's analyze the effect that the transactions had on the accounting equation. We are looking at the transaction on the 1st, the 4th, and the 7th. We know that the source document will be check counterfoil because all of them were checks. And now let's look at the transactions themselves. On the 1st, we issued a check to Cadbury's for chocolate, 700 Rand. Now we have to decide which two bank accounts were affected by that transaction. The first one is bank. The second one is material costs. All right, so let's go to our AOL. Bank is an asset. And what happened to the asset? It decreased by 700 Rand, and material costs is an expense, and we know that expenses decreases owner's equity. All right, on the 4th, let's see what the transaction was there. Molds, issued a check for molds, for chocolate molds equipment. All right, so the two accounts affected by that transaction are bank. You see check, it's always bank, and then equipment. All right, let's have a look how that affected the AOL. They are both assets. Bank is an asset, equipment is asset. So what happened? Bank decreased by 300 Rand because we paid for equipment, but equipment increased by 300 Rand. So what happens is they cancel one another out. Minus 300 plus 300 And in actual fact, there was 0 effect. In grade 10, you will write 0, but for now, we're going to show exactly how we get to that. Right, on the 7th of the month, issued a check to M Molds for chocolate molds. On the 7th, sorry. Issued check to Game for traveling cases for an overseas trip, drawings. The 2 accounts that are affected are bank, because a check was written out, as well as drawings. Drawings is an owner's equity account. That is when an owner takes money for personal use, and so we allocate that to drawings. The other owner's equity account is capital. That is right. All right, so how are we going to analyze this transaction? We're going to say bank, which is an asset, decreased by 700 Rand, and drawings, which is an owner's equity account, always decreases owner's equity. All right. I just wanted to check. Yes, it was 700 Rand. Now, what you can do is you can type in your name or write your name and grade, and then this is how you can submit it if you have the electronic version, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you click on the submit button. You already have your educator's email address. This takes a little while. Mine is Gmail. Busy loading. And I found mine in drafts. All right, so if you can't find it, doesn't open up on Compose, then you'll find it in drafts, and there you'll see your activity, exercise 21, page 66, recipient. You'll type in your teacher's email address, and you will press send. All right, good luck. We will see you at the next exercise, exercise 24, if you can get that ready in the meantime.